Welcome to the Dental CEO Podcast, where you'll learn how to buy, grow, and run your own dental practice. We'll be learning from practicing dentists as well as masters in the industry. And I'm your host, Dr. Brenny, founder of PracticingDentist.com and owner of Ivory Dental Group in Minneapolis. Hello everyone. Today we have the pleasure of speaking with Jerry Jones. And many of you have probably heard of Jerry Jones. He is a master dental marketer and a practice owner in Oregon. Today he's going to share with us a businessman's perspective of how to grow and run a dental practice. So this is a great interview. He's somebody who is not a dentist, but is a practice owner and very successful businessman who's going to share with us the keys and tips on how to build and grow and run an amazing, successful, and profitable dental practice.
So, if I were to restate the question, then what are some key areas that a young dentist can focus on who is either looking to buy a practice or already has bought a practice? Would that be accurate?
Exactly. What are the things that as someone working in the industry, as a dental owner who isn't a dentist, that you kind of look out at dentists and you're like, man, if these guys only knew and were taught these couple things, their life would be a lot easier. Because I know for myself, you know, when I graduated from dental school and then went into the search to learn about practice ownership, nobody told me anything, right? We just get sent out and it's like, all right, guys, figure it out.
Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah, good luck. Sink or swim.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the first year out of dental school, and this is from my perspective. So, and again, you said it, I'm not a dentist. I've been in the industry 20 years. I've owned a dental office for 14. I've got almost 15 now. I've got 3 or 4 doctors there at my office, a couple hygienists. So I'm speaking about this from looking at what is taking place, not participating directly in. In other words, I've never provided a second of clinical care, and I never will. I have no interest in the clinical care, not because I think it's not interesting, but that's just not where I'm focused on. It's like, you know, if you ask me, hey, you want to change the oil in your car? I'm like, hell no, I'm not interested in changing the oil in my car. I did that, you know, for 10 years when I first had a vehicle. I have no interest in doing it. So I don't have an interest. I respect it greatly. Obviously it's extremely important. You have to provide excellent clinical care. So for docs, you know, that are getting out of school, honing those clinical skills to give painless injections, you know, cut a crown fast, do fillings quickly, become very efficient. I think that's step one. I mean, you've got to begin to master your craft. And dental school is, you know, getting a license to practice dentistry is really step one. I mean, school is the very beginning. Finishing that, getting out is obviously just step one. Step two is mastering those skills, getting quick, being efficient. And I think step 3 is beginning to explore what it means to be a leader. And do you want to be a leader, and do you have what it takes to be a leader? Because anyone can go buy a dental office. Anyone can go, you know, start a dental practice. And what I mean by anyone in most states that are dentists. So it doesn't take a license to become an owner of a business, right? I mean, you can just go and do it. But if you have no interest in being a great leader, if you have no interest in developing business skills, it is going to be a long, painful, very, very painful experience. It's going to cost a ton of dough. You're going to have sleepless nights, and I mean, it's going to be miserable. So I've watched this take place time and time again from dentists who, you know, worked in corporate. They decide they want to become an owner. They go in half-cocked. They have no freaking idea what they're up against. They're not natural-born leaders. They're introverts, typically. I mean, most dentists, just by nature, it's the stereotype, and they exist for a reason. They're introverts. And so developing leadership skills and then developing an interest in business, because you have to if you're going to be in business, are challenges. They're bigger challenges for the stereotypical dentist than going through dental school. Dental school, for most, I mean, it's difficult. It's got to be hard. I mean, I can't imagine. I didn't do it, but I know it's got to be difficult. But if it's a passion, it's different, right? Difficulty and passions make hard things a lot easier if you're passionate about it. So you have to develop a passion for leadership and for business if you want to own your own practice. If you want to be an associate, which there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to be an employee for the rest of your life, there's nothing wrong with that. But to go the ownership path, I mean, you gotta just understand those are 2 things you're going to have to develop. The faster you get there, the better. So business, it isn't going out and hiring a practice management company. That is not what I mean. Anyone can do that as well. You write a check, you got a practice manager, they come in, they fix a few things, they install some systems, they leave. When you stop paying them, all the systems crash because you don't understand how to hold people accountable to keep using the systems because you've not developed any leadership skills. So it can become a vicious cycle. So if I had, you have to excuse me, my voice is a little hoarse today. If I had to give someone a natural progression, graduate dental school, get really efficient, develop an interest or even a love or passion for business and leadership, then open your practice. Don't come out of dental school, open your practice, go, holy shit, it takes me 2 hours to do a one surface filling, or it takes me 3 hours to do a crown. Don't do that. And then say, oh, I'm going to go learn implants because if I learn implants, everything's going to get better. That just compounds your problem because now you know more about diagnostics than you do about getting anything done that's really simple. So you want to be careful about the skills you add until you're ready to add those and until your business tells you, hey, I'm referring out too much endo. I'm referring out dentures and I shouldn't be. I'm referring out implants and I shouldn't be. Do one thing at a time. Once you get business mastered, which takes a long time, by the way, or at least the basics, and getting leadership and be understanding what it takes to become a great leader. And if you don't have a natural inclination to become a leader, which is damn difficult, it is one of the most difficult things I've ever done is to attempt to develop myself as a leader. There's nothing I've never ever done that's been more difficult than that.
Would you consider yourself a natural or not? You know what I mean? That's an interesting question. What you're bringing up is a big deal. I've noticed because people sometimes are born, and the dentists who I see that go out, do a startup right out of school and just blow it out of the water are the ones who are ultra charismatic and very good natural leaders. How did you? And they probably aren't
that great at dentistry, are they?
Maybe not.
They just do okay dentistry, right?
Doesn't matter. It's yeah, right. So
that it doesn't matter. You're right.
Right. It doesn't matter. So for you, that's always an interesting question I get asked. I mean, like you said, most dentists, we go in and we're taught clinically, and we're scientists, yet artists / all of these things thrown into business, and then expected to be leaders. So how did you hone those skills? You said it was one of the most difficult things. How did the progression happen?
I'm still working on it. I mean, I'm 45. Right. I'm still working on it. And I really think I've got here's the secret. Find great leaders and put yourself everywhere they are. Surround yourself with great people if you want to rise to become a better person. That goes for the clinical side of dentistry. That goes for the business side. It goes for leadership. So that's what I've done. I have some incredible mentors. I have a great father who's an incredible mentor. My best friend, Tom, is same age as my dad almost, incredible mentor. And it's been his work with me directly over the last 5-6 years in a very non-threatening, non-judgmental, sort of a fatherly kind of way that he's really sort of, pushed me along the path of leadership. And Cole, you asked the question, am I a natural born leader? I was told that a lot. Leadership is, to me, at a young age, leadership is just being willing to stand up and go, I have a question and I want an answer, or it's being assertive to me. That's what young leadership is just, throwing it all out there and just going for it. And not letting fear dictate what you do. I think that's when you're young, that's what being a leader means. It just means, hey, I've got a great idea and I'm attracting people with the passion and getting them to follow you into battle. As you mature, being a great leader is not so much being reckless or careless and being, gung-ho. It takes a lot more introspective thought than that. It takes, in one word, being vulnerable. And if I have one message for your audience today in the short period of time we have together, it's if you're unwilling to be vulnerable, you'll never be a good leader. And if you want to be a great leader, you've got to be vulnerable. If you go and you study, if you Google this phrase, what does being vulnerable have to do with being a leader? Or if you Google in quotes, vulnerability and leadership, you're going to get some fascinating reading from some of the brightest minds in business. But if you aren't willing to be vulnerable, which means if you're willing to let your dental assistant tell you behind closed doors, once your patient or guest, as I refer to them, has left, if you're not willing to hear your DA say, doctor, you really blew it. If you would have done this and not this, we could have saved the tooth. Or if you would have done this and not this, we could have been in and out of there in 20 minutes instead of 45. I know, doctor, that if you want to produce 500 an hour, you've got to listen to me. I've been in dentistry for 20 years. You've been in it 1. I know you have a degree and I don't, but I can run circles around you at this point. So being vulnerable is willing to listen to people who know a hell of a lot more than you, who maybe don't have the credentials after their name. That's being vulnerable. Being vulnerable is also being willing to understand when you've screwed something up and you look in the mirror and you don't point the finger at everybody else. Being a leader is taking the credit when shit goes wrong. In other words, it's my fault. I'm at the top, it's my fault. And when things go really, really well, you better be willing to point your finger at everybody who did a great job to support you and support the mission of the team. Mm-hmm. And I was at an event not long ago. Vern Harnish, if your listeners aren't familiar with Vern Harnish and you want to understand leadership, he's an interesting cat to go and follow, but he's got a company called Gazelles. And he was doing this presentation. You're familiar with him?
Yeah, I think I've read one of his books.
Scaling Up or?
I can't remember, but I remember the Gazelles was in. He had the worksheets in the back of the book. I'll have to look that up. Great.
Scaling Up is one of his books. It's a great book. Everybody should read it that's listening to your podcast. They should buy all of his books and read it. Jack Welch is another great leader. There are so many great John Maxwell is an incredible guy, and there's some great people out there to go and learn leadership from. But the bottom line is that you have to be willing to look in the mirror and just say, hey, it's my fault. It's my problem. The reason why the practice sucks is me. It's not the people I've hired, because I'm the one that hired them. It's sort of like saying, my patients all suck. Well, guess what? You're to blame for that. You attracted the people. You attracted them to you. It's your fault. If you have a house full of Medicaid patients that you don't want anymore, that's your fault. It's not their fault. You're the one that attracted them. So vulnerability, and I don't even know where I was going with Vern Harnish, but I do now. This team concept. So he's got this slide up there. He's got the word team, and he goes, everybody says there's no I in team. He said, but frankly, I think we did find it, and it's right in the middle of the A hole. And so he has the word team up there, and he's got the A, in block letters, and you get what I'm saying, right? Yeah. So there is no I in team except for in the A hole. So that means if you want to be an ass, you'll be on your own. But if you want to be part of a team, it's not about you. It can't be. The practice can't be about you.
Right.
It's got to be about the people, right? So it's hard getting a doctor who's been anointed, all this, they've been anointed expert level status. They've been conferred a degree. They've been, told by the university staff that they're the brightest and most brilliant people of their, generation. And so they go out with this giant head. And the problem is they get out the doors of the university, but that's about as far as they go before they start getting beat up. And so what we see I work with startup practices all the time. Probably have 7 or 8 or 9 different startup practices that we're working with right now. I've done 3 startups myself. So I've already been there, done that, got the t-shirt, whatever. So going through this process for us is rote. It's just repetition. Same thing, different city, same thing, different city. But to get a dentist to understand that you've already done it, they want to do it their way because, by golly, they've got a degree. And their aunts, brothers, sisters, best friend's uncle told them that they needed to do it this way. It's like, so we take the approach of we can do it your way or we can do it our way or we can split test, which means when you screw it up your way, you're going to see that doing it our way was the better way because we're doing the same thing at the same time or different things at the same time, your way and our way. You follow me, Cole, on this?
Yeah, right.
So we let them see what their way means before they do too much damage. And so doctors just need to, get out of their own way.
Usually what does that mean? Usually what does that mean then? What do you see? What's the typical split test result that you see?
Well, 9.5 times out of 10, I'm right. And the 0.5%, the 5% of the time I'm wrong, or 10% of the time maybe I'm wrong, it's some weird fluke. I'll give you an example. So we had a guy in small town in Texas. He was a homegrown boy. He just went back to open his practice up in this small little community. And he's like, I really don't need to do any marketing because everybody knows who I am. I'm like, well, but you need to tell people that you're like in town though, don't you? I mean, don't you need to say, hey, I'm here? A couple ways you can do that. And he's like, well, yeah, but I probably don't really need to do much. Well, we did one thing for him. His phone's, blew up, of which nobody was answering. I mean, all these calls are going to voicemail. It's like, and then he's like such a casual attitude. He's like, yeah, we'll be fine. Thanks for the help. Have a good one. So it's like, I was wrong in that case, only because the guy grew up there and, family name, all these things going for him. But typically, you got docs that want to live in the places that are great to live in, but they absolutely suck to practice in because there's 9 million dentists already there. Mike Abernathy, really smart, seasoned guy, right? Hasn't practiced dentistry for a number of years, but he's probably one of the smarter, more vocal consultants that run around dentistry doing, talks and all this sort of thing. Mike's a sharp guy, and that advice is exactly the same advice that came from Mike. It came from my dad. My dad always told me, hey, son, work where you have to, vacation where you want. So typically what happens is doctor gets married, wife says, hey, I don't want to live in middle of nowhere. I want to live in downtown X, insert the city. So, here comes the husband, the dentist, being drug along by his wife who wants to live in the town she's always always dreamed of living in, but it's a shitty place to practice. It's difficult to start a practice in Portland, Oregon, but yet you can move 45 minutes in either direction of Portland, Oregon, and in many cases have a booming practice in a year or two. So it's like, why do people torture themselves when the information is available, especially today, to be successful faster as opposed to more painfully slow? It's easier today to learn how to develop leadership skills than it's ever been. You can go on, you can watch hours of YouTube, but still you got to go and practice being a leader, right? You got to do it. So anyway, does that help? Are we on the right track?
No, you're totally on the right track. This is amazing stuff. As a dentist, going through all of this, in my career and having no one teach me, having to go out and read and get books and hopefully then not screw it up in real life. After I do screw it up multiple times, it's great. This is super, super refreshing. I think everyone's going to really learn a lot. What you just said is that's like major, major packed full of good stuff, which is what I like. When I do these podcasts or teach, it's like I want the most packed, dense info because, we don't have time to sit for hours and talk about random ideas. Like you just laid it all on a plate. That's awesome because that's the thing. That's the thing I've learned about leadership and tried to figure out is in the end I'm a young dentist, started a practice. I love it. But it's hard. And in the end, I think what I've learned, especially the last couple of years is exactly what you said. You're saying a lot of things and they're popping in my head like, yeah. If something's not right, it's my fault. And it's interesting. The leadership skills that you learn kind of develop off what you said, humility and learning and I don't know, just trying to grow. I love it. I think that's huge. That's huge. Let me give
you a couple of books. You mentioned books and people don't read enough. They believe that YouTube's got all the answers. And by the way, I just learned this. Or podcast. I just learned this last weekend. There are more people that search YouTube for medical solutions than go to WebMD and search WebMD for medical solutions. Now you talk about a bunch of crazy BS, right?
Right.
You've got some jackass in backwoods Tennessee telling you how to extract a tooth. Really? Come on. Not even WebMD probably will tell you how to do that, right? So here's some books.
Yeah, what are your top books?
I've got so many. There are hundreds of. I actually had to go. I just recently donated. This is no joke. About 15 bankers boxes full of books. That I've read, and it's like, okay, they need to get out of my house. I have nowhere to put them. Right. I have a huge shop that I work out of, which is even crazy. But so here's the first one: Semper Fi.
Okay. Business
Leadership the Marine Corps Way, written by a guy named Dan Carrison and Rod Walsh. Semper Fi. Go on Google or Amazon and buy it. Now, I'm going to talk just for a second about some very old books that your audience is going to have a tough time finding, but I think if you go on Google, you can probably find some of the scanned-in versions of these because Google went and stole all the books from all the libraries and scanned them all in, anything that had more than a 20-year record to it. So first book is written by a dentist named George Wood Clapp. You ever heard that name? George Wood Clapp, C-L-A-P-P?
No.
Okay, so if you think anything in dentistry and practice management is new, the date on this particular book, and by the way, it's actually signed by, this one is signed by George Wood Clapp. The date on this book was published in 1916 by the Dentist Supply Company.
Nice.
So 1916, I've got the original book right here in my hands. This thing is frickin' pure gold. It is pure genius, and it talks about anything and everything you can imagine in the practice management of dentistry, to include long working hours, 3 views of lower fees, a dawning public comprehension. Okay, this is all shit from 1916. Ruling off the accounts, which means writing off accounts. The dentist's manner. Let me read you a passage. A few years ago, certain dentists seemed to enjoy the reputation of being rough but good, and their manners were as rough as their technique. But the younger men without reputations found the rough but good attitude unprofitable and adopted the pleasant, courteous manners common to gentlemen. Okay, I mean, this is basically his thing. Don't be an ass.
Right.
The understanding this is stuff from like 1916. This is freaking pure gold. And here's one: the possibilities of accumulating a competency. And so here it talks about focus on a particular set of procedures. The influence of unbusinesslike methods. These are all chapter subheads. And by the way, he even talks about the importance of savings, complete with a chart that breaks down how much you should be spending on household salaries, investments, general expense, advertising, lab work, 5.28%. What do you think of that? Lab work, 5.28%. Does that sound familiar?
That does.
12% of your income. Personal expenditures, entertainment and charity, 9.52%. Life insurance, 7.22%. Savings, 4.08%. Other investments, 12%. I mean, geez.
Wow.
It's like a blueprint for success, and it's from 1916. By the way, he didn't invent it either. And then he's got more. There's more books. Brother Bill's letters, which are also, I believe they were written by Clapp himself as well, or one of his colleagues, but he went by the name Brother Bill. Brother Bill's letters, book 1 and 2, and I think there might be a book 3. Again, I mean, meeting price competition. You know, all dentists freak out about, oh, I can't raise my fees. Well, here's a book from this one's even older. I think this one's from 1908. This is all 100-year-old shit here we're talking about.
Good one.
Yeah, George Wood Clapp did the foreword for this book. I would think it was probably his book. But, yeah, 1909 is when these things, and this was the second version. So those are some books on dentistry that every dentist who owns a practice shouldn't be owning a practice until they've read them. Seriously, because they're just that good. Now, let's talk about advertising for a minute, because there's so much bullshit on the internet and that's being promulgated by seminars out there. It's sickening. I've been in this industry for 20 years, not nearly as long as some, but I've got a pretty darn good reputation. I cuss a lot, but I've got a good reputation in the industry, and there's a reason why. We do what we say, and we say what we're going to do, and we tell the truth. And here's a situation where in advertising, you have to be careful who you listen to. The internet is a cesspool, and the people peddling internet bullshit out there is ridiculous. You got people selling $35,000 websites and video crap, and on contracts for 2 or 3 years. I mean, it's ridiculous. So here are a couple of books every dentist should read if they want to be successful in promoting their practice. First, I direct them to all 4 of my books, which are available on Amazon.com. And I would be happy to send one of my books to any of your listeners that want to send me an email. I'll send you one of my books for free. It'll be my choice, all of which are good, but it'll be my choice based on what I have sitting out in inventory. I'll give any of your listeners a 90-day free trial, which is 3 months, a 3-month free trial to Dentistry Confidential. It's my Business of Dentistry audio program, 3 months free. Yeah. All they got to do is just drop an email to me. That's it. I'll set them up on the digital subscription at no charge, none at all. Just have it. It doesn't cost me a penny because it's digital, so it's perfect. Free to me, so I'm making it free to them for 90 days. Now, a couple of books that are not mine that they should read. One is called Making Ads Pay, written by John Caples. Making Ads Pay. And if they can get their hands on the original edition, not the second, third, or fourth, but the original edition, it is freaking gold. That book has made me millions of dollars. Another great book written by a brilliant advertising man is called Reality in Advertising by Rosser Reeves. Guy is just amazing. Another great book.
That's awesome, Jerry. I think you just dropped a knowledge bomb here. So I'm going to wrap it up. This is nice, efficient stuff. Thanks so much. Appreciate everything you shared. I'm going to send this out, package it up, and listeners are going to love it.
All right, guys, that concludes our interview with Jerry Jones, master marketer and practice owner in Oregon. And you guys should take advantage of the book list he recommended, as well as his free newsletter. Just email Jerry, go to his site, and send him an email. Tell him you're a listener of the Dental CEO podcast, and that stuff is free to you. And also, if you guys need help, you want coaching during your process of buying or building your own practice, check out my own personal coaching program. It's one-on-one. I can help with as little or as much as you like, but I love it. And I've helped a ton of young dentists save money and also take the headache and stress out of going at practice purchase alone.